All right, so let's continue with our conversation on effective writing style as you're preparing grant proposals. So you had a little bit of time to go over this. So let me walk you through the quote unquote solutions for this. So again, remember George Orwell's like, hey, if you have a complicated word, there's probably one that's easier to understand that you should use instead, to paraphrase him. So attempt should become try. Fundamental can become basic. Those are the two synonyms that I think of right away. There's nothing wrong with fundamental, nothing wrong with attempt, but it's a little bit, it can be a little bit stilted. So again, think of more basic words that communicate more clearly what you're saying. Now, so deleting needless words, red in color, you can just say red. Totally destroyed, and I do this all the time. If something is destroyed, I think it's totally destroyed. Otherwise, you would say partially destroyed. But if something's destroyed, we all think it's gone, it's broken, that's it. So it's unnecessary. So condensing wordy phrases at this point in time becomes now. In the event that, and I see this a lot, if, right? Easy peasy kind of changes. And then lastly, you guys are pros at this with normalization, using verbs, not nouns, made from them. So produce relief would become to relieve. Provide an explanation. Oh man, this comes up all the time. To explain. So just some simple examples for how to write more concisely. Last slide on writing concisely. This is no news to you. Keep sentences short and complete. If you use paragraphs in your proposal, keep them short too. So don't write pages and pages of paragraphs. Preview or summarize main points, for example, in the abstract, but avoid unnecessary repetition. So, as you're writing your proposal, you have a limited amount of space. Think about being concise and getting to the point and not repeating yourself too much. And then lastly, make sure you follow length or word count limitations given in the proposal instructions and really adhere to this. Actually, I think when you submit to the NIH portal, they have an online portal. If you're beyond the word limit, it won't accept your application. So this is where technology sometimes can help us. Okay, so remember, we talked about writing clearly, writing concisely, but also writing to persuade is an important element of successful grant writing. So as you're persuading, again, think about if your proposal wants to convince or persuade the grant reviewers. And the tone can play a big role in how you do that, right? So you have to be persuasive. So you have to make some strong arguments why you should get the funding. But you don't want to be impassive, completely dry so nobody will care, or on the other hand, too arrogant saying this is the only way this could ever be done. So you have to kind of strike a balance there. So here are a couple of sentences. So the first one is a little bit too impassive and dry. This project may improve the operational processes of this library. Okay. The middle one, this project will substantially improve the operational processes of this library. Okay, substantially improve, I get that. And the last one, there's absolutely no doubt that this project will lead to an unprecedented improvement in this library. That's a little bit arrogant and overconfident, right? Unprecedented, no doubt. But you can, I think, with confidence say, if you've done your research design and you've put a lot of work into your project, that this will substantially improve the operational processes of this library or whatever you're proposing. So don't be afraid to use some strong language to show the potential impact of your work. You don't want to sell yourself short like you're doing here, but you also don't want to really kind of come across as like you've it all figured out and nobody else would ever be able to do this. So again, that's where you have to strike a balance. And again, somebody else to review your work for you can help with that as well. A little bit more on writing to persuade. And I said this earlier, the persuasive tone needs to be absolutely present in your introduction and your conclusion. Your intro where you establish your project is needed, and the conclusion where you explain again that your project is likely to be successful and effective. Okay. In other parts of your proposal, like background and methods, persuasive tone is not so necessary and actually probably not even appropriate. So you can keep on summarizing knowledge, the knowledge base, literature, other research studies, the context of your work. But think about persuasive or persuasion as your guiding principle in the intro and your conclusion, so the beginning and the end of your proposal. And so, writing clearly, writing concisely, writing persuasively, and then lastly, number 4, make sure you format your writing. Badly formatted documents make texts very hard to read, and they give readers a negative impression. So don't be sloppy on this. This should not be a last-minute thing. Granting bodies often provide certain templates, and so use those, but you still need to pay attention and proofread and really, after you've done all the content proofreading, proofread just for formatting. Here's some pointers for effective formatting. Consider inserting subheadings if a section or text is too long, similar to what we've talked about, particularly for methods and results, right? Use fonts consistently, and this is particularly important when you're copying and pasting from different documents. Again, do a sweep at the end when you're just looking for your formatting. So all the headings should be the same font and so on. It should be consistent. And then lastly, and this is really important, I'm going to show you in some examples, don't be afraid to use some certain typesettings to emphasize points. Boldface, underlining, italics. I suggest not using capital letters, right? It looks like you're yelling at somebody. But bolding something, underlining, or italicizing something really draws your reader attention to that. And so I'll show you a few examples in 2 different documents where successful authors have done it actually pretty successfully. Some more pointers for formatted writing. Don't use too many numbers or bullets. If the numbers or bullets are lengthy, arrange them vertically instead of horizontally, right? It's a different way to help your reader understand. If you have a long list, consider making more than 1 list if it's too long. And then I can't underestimate this. Closely follow any of the instructions regarding the format of the proposal. I mean, this is really kind of the thing that I hate to see most, is you don't follow something and you get kicked out because of that. Final check, proofread, proofread, proofread. I'm going to put a couple of circles around here. Very important. Not just for content and flow, that's important too, but also for errors in spelling and grammar and for formatting. Manual spell check is useful for catching wrong words, like abroad instead of abroad and so on, because your spell check on your computer program will not catch this, because abroad and abroad are both perfectly fine words. Computers that we have, or the programs that we have, are not yet so intelligent that they can see that you meant to say abroad rather than abroad. So make sure you review it as well. Sometimes what's helpful is to read your text backwards or to read it out loud. So those are really good suggestions, good ways to do that. So here is an example, and you should have it in front of you in handout. I think we handout 15. This is an example from an R01 application. So I mentioned the NIH earlier in the video, the National Institutes of Health here in outside of Washington, federal agency, and they have these grants called R01 grants, which are really sort of the most coveted grants if you're a medical researcher. They fund your work for several years. Henry will know more about this. He's more familiar with the NIH grant than I am. I've never applied for any grants there. I've just worked with some grantees, so my knowledge specifically about this is a little bit in the surface area, but I know the R01s are really, really great to have, and it funds your work for many years to go. So this one here, a couple of things I want to point out just by looking at it. You notice here is something underlined, right? So this author has chosen to underline the major components of this, what we call a summary statement. That's a typical introduction summary statement, where it's just short preface of what the whole project is about, and there is a word limit for this. So there's a long-term goal, objective, central hypothesis, rationale, specific aims, very important. Contribution is significant, right? So I know, right, okay, good. So if I want to just know what is significant, I go right to the sentence. The proposed research is innovative because. That's another criteria specifically for R01 grants or many NIH grants. They have to be significant, or they also have to show why the project is significant and innovative. So highlighting that and being very clear about it is very important. And if you look at the sentence here, this contribution is significant, this will establish that several pathways targeted, blah, blah, blah. The proposed research is innovative because we investigate. So they give you, the sentences are very clear, very to the point. Couple of things that I think this proposal, if you had a chance to look at it, is about inflammatory bowel disease or some effects of IBD, which is not, the acronym is not explained. So I don't think that's really that great, and I had to look it up as a reader, which always kind of annoys me. But it might be the assumption that people will know what this is, but again, don't assume. So something like IBD should be explained before the acronym is used. And I think later in the proposal, the authors do that, but it should also be done in the summary statement, right? And so what I also like about this particular proposal, the summary statement is a lot of our in here. There's some reason there, our long-term goal. Sentences are not too long. It's a fairly easy read, even if you're not very familiar, like I am, with the actual science behind it and the particular area. It also clearly lists the aims. That's usually the standard for an R01 grant. So again, and these are also, they're not necessarily highlighted, but the specific aims again are highlighted here. So it's a great example of some of the formatting things, and it has some really good things going on anyways in terms of clear language, clear sentences, and straightforward active writing. The other piece I wanted to share with you is a personal statement of the principal investigator. I think for this particular, I think it might have been 4 different grants, I'm not sure. But I wanted you guys to look at this, and actually I have a little activity for you as well if you want to do it. This is the part that you have to do it as part of NIH grants. You have to describe the environment, in this case the lab in which this research would take place, and why it's a great place to carry out this research. And the principal investigator has to write up a little personal statement to describe why they are particularly qualified to do this kind of work. So it contains a little bit of a short description of what this work will do, and then very clearly, this work is a good fit to my group's expertise since blah, blah, blah. My primary expertise lies in this. My primary field of training is this. After I began my faculty, blah, 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 I did this. There should be a comma here, but it's okay. My lab can perform this, and then ultimately highlighted in a sense with underlined and italics. I am uniquely positioned to oversee the research described in this proposal. And this is highlighted by formatting. Very important. I have the experience, and what I like about this, there's a really great balance here in terms of sort of being persuasive and really showing off this person's qualifications and being confident about it, but not being too boastful about it. So I really enjoyed it. So take a look at this, and I'll have a couple of I walk you through the exercise in just a moment, but a couple of more slides. Some other resources, again, I'll post these, I'll put these PowerPoints up in a folder on the Moodle platform, probably sometime this week, so you guys can have access to all of these links as well. And then I have 2 exercises for you. Number 1 is, I want you to access some writing you have done. It's ideally if it was part of a grant proposal, but if not, you can use any other writing from another item, such as a paper. And I want you to use points in this presentation and make at least 3 improvements in the writing. At least 3 things you want to change. If any of those points that I've introduced to you today in today's videos, but also from some previous videos if you like. And if you want to share the improvements with the rest of your group, like via Moodle, I know this is your last day, give it to another colleague, or you can also email me. I'd be happy to give you some feedback as well. That's 1 exercise, but not enough. Exercise 2, write your own biography statement or personal statement for grant application using the one discussed in this presentation as a model. And again, email me your sample bio statement if you like. I'd be happy to give you feedback on that as well. But I think it's a useful exercise to do that, to write about your accomplishments and why you are uniquely qualified to carry out some research. Now, when applying for a grant right now, you might not have a particular project in mind or particular kind of context, but still think about what could you put into a personal statement that would go in a grant application like this. Okay, I wish you much success, as the authors of Author Aid do as well. It's been a real pleasure working remotely with you, and I hope I hear from you very, very soon. Bye-bye.